Hi, it's Joseph Palmer here at the Autodidact channel. It's February 8th, 2023, and this is the first episode of a series about my experiences as an autistic person. If you find this message to be helpful, then please press the like button and share with family and friends. That will invite the social media gods to shed a bit of sunshine on our channel. In the next few minutes, I will tell you a little bit about myself, what motivated me to share my autism experience on social media. I'll give an overview of topics we'll be covering in future episodes. Let's go with that. So myself, I'm a 48-year-old American, born in Utah, raised in Alaska. After high school, I spent most of the balance of my life living in Utah and New Mexico. I'm married to a wonderful Mexican woman for over 26 years. Together, we have one son and three daughters. I earned a PhD in electrical engineering from Brigham Young University in 2009. Since then, I've been employed as a design and analysis engineer for the satellite telecommunications industry, doing mostly research and technology development. 1 month ago, in January 2023, 3 weeks before my 48th birthday, I was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. The doctor who diagnosed me said I have what was formerly known as Asperger's syndrome, though we're not supposed to call it that anymore. However, I do proudly call myself now an Aspie. I was previously diagnosed 5 years ago at age 43 with attention deficit hyperactive disorder, or ADHD. I began to have suspicions of being autistic back in November of 2022, just a few months ago, after I began suffering from an autistic burnout. And if you don't know what burnout is, we'll cover that in a future episode. It's an important aspect of autistic life. While investigating what could be wrong with me, because at the time I did not know what it was, I found a series of videos by the YouTuber Sam, who happens to also be an autistic person with ADHD. I was quite shocked by the similarity of her symptoms with my own, and that's where my diagnosis story began. However, I've had ASD and ADHD for over 48 years. If you didn't know this, ASD and ADHD are something you're born with. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case for ADHD, but I know it is the case for ASD. It's something you're born with. What this means is that though I was diagnosed as a middle-aged man, I have nevertheless been a lifelong autistic and ADHD person. This series is about that experience. Why am I sharing it with you? Why am I broadcasting out to the world that I'm an autistic person? There's 3 reasons. First, it took me many, many years to learn I am neurodiverse. If you don't know what neurodiverse means, it's a name often used by the community of people with autism spectrum disorder. I do not want this late diagnosis to be the case for others, and so it's my hope that just as Sam helped me recognize this condition in myself, that I might likewise be able to help others. Second, living as a neurodiverse person in a neurotypical world is not easy. And I'm just now starting to understand how difficult it really was. Yeah, there's been some hard times in life, but I'm just now beginning to realize how difficult it really was. I know there are some listening who struggle with autism, or are tied by bonds of affection to somebody who is. Maybe I have lived an experience or learned a lesson which can be of assistance to you. Third, sharing my experience satisfies my need for autistic stimming. If you don't know what stimming is, I'll be covering it in depth in a future episode. But until then, the short definition is stimming is one way that autistic persons cope with overstimulation. Usually this is some form of repetitive physical motion that to the neurotypical appears to be a disturbing level of compulsive behavior, when in reality it helps the neurodiverse person process the information overload in our minds. Often this manifests as things like hair twirling, hand flapping, or an urge to spontaneously jump over objects. However, in my case, my stimming outlet is to communicate my sensory observations to others by voice or written words. In other words, I need to tell an audience about what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm feeling, what I'm learning, what I'm reading. There's something with the way my mind works that if by going through that process of communicating the information, it helps my brain to process it and feel like it can release that information. There needs to be an audience for it. I began autism therapy about a month ago, and my very wise therapist, Ashley, suggested social media may be the perfect forum for doing this. So here I am. In summary, sharing my experience serves the purpose of educating persons about what autism really is, makes others aware of successful strategies and lessons learned from my own autistic life, and finally, it is the ultimate form of my own version of autistic stimming. Topics that will be covered in future episodes: diagnosis and how I came to suspect that I was autistic. I've already said a few things about that, but I'll go into much more detail on that in my next episode. I'll have an episode on masking. Again, if you don't know what masking is, we'll get to that. It's a very important part of being autistic, especially if you don't want others to know that you're autistic. And we do this mostly subconsciously. I masked for 48 years of my life and did not know that I was masking. We'll have an episode on stimming, also a very important coping behavior for the autistic. We'll go through education systems, employment, and family life. All three of these things can be very difficult for the autistic. I have been successful in these. I recognize that. I've been a very fortunate person, mostly because of the people in my life, my family, my friends, and I recognize this. But there have been hiccups along the way. There have been difficult things. And in hindsight, I see that most of the difficulties that I've had in my life stemmed from being an autistic person. So despite my successes, I believe there is much that I can share that will help others understand. And perhaps there are some important lessons there, why I was successful at the things that I did, that might help one of you that are listening. And last, I'll finish up this series with some episodes on the current thinking and research in the scientific community on autism. It is a surprisingly controversial topic. And because of that, I won't go into any depth on it right now, but there are good reasons it is controversial. And I have my own opinions on it. And being an autistic person, I also know very deeply what it feels like to be autistic. And I have some ideas on what I think is the root, let's say carefully use the term, cause of autism. And I'll talk about that in some future episodes. If you feel that these episodes will be beneficial to you, then I would invite you to subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Hit the notification button below so that you'll know when I release new episodes. If you found this episode to be helpful, please press the like button and share it with friends and family. That way the YouTube algorithm will know to promote this video out to a wider audience if you so feel that it's worthwhile. And in early next week, in about 3 or 4 days, I'll release the next episode on my diagnosis. This is Joseph Palmer at the Autodidact. Keep learning, my friends.